Well, hi, everybody. It's meteorologist Joe Chaffee on this Thursday, the 28th of March, 2019. Hope everybody had a great day. We actually managed to nudge the temperatures up about 5 to 7 degrees higher than we were at yesterday in areas in eastern Pennsylvania to southern New England. That still means that the coastal areas didn't get out of the 40s, and some of the inland areas got close to 60. And I think we're going to continue to just kind of tack on a few degrees more on Friday and a bit more on Saturday. Saturday, I think, is the one day, assuming that there will be at least some breaks of sunshine, it should help the thermometers along and bring temperatures up at least upper 60s to low 70s in the warmest spots. If it was a day where we were going to wind up with all-day sunshine, I wouldn't have a problem pushing the envelope as far as the highs go and maybe nudging it up to middle or even upper 70s. But I think there's an issue with regards to clouds that I want to respect that will cut the sun back in some areas, not all. And, of course, the coastal areas will have to deal with the south wind. Now, we're going to talk about the weather going into the next few days and the weekend. We're also going to take a look at early next week where we've got the models showing a coastal low. And I use I'm using the words coastal low, okay? I'm not even saying coastal storm. I'm saying coastal low. I'm Michael Bologna. You jumped 3 levels to major nor'easter. Why? You know, I'm wondering. I haven't really paid attention to anything that's going on online. I don't know if somebody used that phrase. We're not there, and I don't even know that we'll ever be there with this. But it is a coastal low, and we've got some model issues regarding how it's going to play out and where it's going to wind up, because I'm still not completely sold on the idea that it's going to move up the coast. I think there's a fair shot that it's going to wind up getting ejected further to the east and not be of consequence. In the meantime, I would also suggest that much like we deal with these weather systems during the winter time and have, you're going to see models continually move pieces around for a while. It's only Thursday. We're talking about something 6 days from now. So we probably won't settle on a model solution until maybe Sunday or early Monday. But I would lean to the idea, since these lows keep wanting to get ejected out more east than north, with the one exception being the system from not too many days ago, we've got to kind of go with the fact that the chances of it coming up the coast aren't all that particularly strong. But I have an open mind with regards to it, so we'll see. We'll see where it goes. Many days yet to watch this all play out. So let's jump to the weather at the moment. By the way, this morning, I know William Huber, down to what was you? Were you near 20 this morning? I was 21. And I saw that West Hampton dropped down to 18, and there were temperatures in the Pine Barrens in New Jersey that were down in the middle teens. This was as a result of the absolutely ridiculously bone-dry dew points that we had. And actually, the dew points are still not that high. They've come up from the single digits, and even in some cases down below zero. They are up to slightly more reasonable levels because we've been getting a bit of a wind coming in off the water since yesterday, and that has got, now going to keep the temperatures up tonight. So I think between that and cloud cover, we're probably not going to get much below 40 in most places. But I just want you to look on the surface map. I don't know if you can see the numbers. They're a little small, but if you go to WPC's website, you could pull up this interactive surface map. The dew points back through the Ohio Valley, the Mid-Atlantic, down into Georgia, all in the 30s. I mean, this is really very, very dry, and they enjoyed temperatures in the 60s and 70s, at least as of 5 o'clock this afternoon. Just a really beautiful day over much of the eastern part of the U.S. And in Florida, you have dew points that are a bit higher once you get down into away from the east coast of Florida, still under the impact of the wind coming in from off the water. But even the inland dew points are down in the low 50s, down into central Florida. You get into the 60 dew points when you get further south. And as we move our way across the Gulf states, even here, dew points in the 40s, temperatures in the 70s. It's really just absolutely delightful air. In the meantime, just to show you the nature of the weather systems right now, they all are pretty weak, and you've got snaking fronts all over the place. The system that is being analyzed in northwestern Illinois, this is where when the front that trails it, this is where the Storm Prediction Center has its only area of risk today, and it's a marginal risk of severe weather. And then you've got this frontal boundary that goes back through North Texas, through Colorado, then arcs back into southern Wyoming, through Utah, and down into Nevada and California. So it's not like we have a wrapped up low here. We're going to start to see a low come out of this and eventually swing a cold front through the east on Sunday. But we've got a couple of days to get there with regards to that front. And here's the satellite loop tonight, the U.S. satellite loop. It kind of looks, it's getting that look across the U.S. of spring. You've got a storm out in the ocean near Bermuda. That moved off the Florida coast over the last 2 days. And you've got a system out in the west. You've got clouds and some scattered showers in between. Not the most active looking radar tonight. But the signature here, weather systems are not all that strong. And when you look at the weather that's being produced, there's not a whole lot of winter type weather. It's typical early spring, an early spring weather pattern across the U.S. Still pretty impressive and busy out off the west coast. You've got that swirl of clouds, that upper low and surface storm sitting off the coast of California and Oregon. So you're still getting some waves of rain coming in from off the ocean. North of Hawaii, we've got this deep cutoff low that has been sitting there and doesn't show any signs of getting out of the way anytime soon. So that's driving basically those two weather systems locked up like this in the Pacific are pretty much driving the overall pattern in the United States. And here is the latest radar. We have some showers in the northeast. A lot of what's up here is either light or not reaching the ground. You can see it here, just a couple of lines of showers moving eastward. Part of the process of getting that warmer air to arrive in the east. And then as we go out west, this is that low I showed you up into northwestern or west central Illinois. And it's from this that the Storm Prediction Center was going for the idea of maybe some marginal risk of severe weather. We've got an area of heavy showers and a couple of embedded thunderstorms in that. Also a little band of showers there in northern Ohio and some showers in southern Wisconsin. So again, you look at the nature of the systems that are out here as shown by the radar. This really looks like a spring map. Out west, there's some snow and some elevated areas up in parts of Utah, and moving eventually into parts of Wyoming and also back through Idaho. A lot of this obviously is elevation driven. And in California, you've got rain showers that continue to come in off the coast, and some of those showers extend northward up into Oregon and into Washington. And in the colder areas inland and in elevation, of course, you are getting some snow. Let's look at what the Storm Prediction Center has to say just in terms of the risk area here. This is for Friday, slight risk, northeastern northeastern Oklahoma, extreme southeastern Kansas, extreme northwestern Arkansas, extreme southwestern Missouri, in a slight risk for severe weather, encased inside a slightly larger area of marginal risk. And then on Saturday, we're going to shift the area eastward, and we've got an area of marginal risk, northern half of Mississippi, northwest Alabama, western Tennessee, southwestern Kentucky, eastern Arkansas, and a small portion of northeastern Louisiana. It's funny how from mid to late February to about the very beginning of spring, we had a few strong severe weather events, and since then it's been pretty quiet, and we don't see anything really of consequence going through this weekend and maybe even into the first part of next week. So after this sort of, after an initial very, very impressive start, things have kind of calmed down in the world of severe weather. So I want to take a look at the overall pattern going forward. We're going to take a look at the upper air, and then I want to dissect the system for Tuesday. But let's do first things first and take a look at what's happening for Friday and the weekend in particular, because we do have a weather front that's approaching, and I just backed it up a couple of days from a couple of days ago, and now we've got pretty much a westerly flow across the United States. You got a little bit of a flow from Canada into the northern tier, and that gradually strengthens as we go into Saturday and Sunday. So here's your shortwave trough that is going to support the cold front that comes through in the east, and there's some colder air behind it. Nothing crazy cold, but there is a shot of cold air that comes in behind it. A little bit of ridging there up in the northwest. The flow is split, and then some of that energy from the cutoff off the coast of California comes inland and dives down into the Rockies over Colorado. You've got an upper low there. This is by Sunday afternoon. So we're going to come back to this. In the meantime, I just want to go to the surface map, and we'll take a look at the evolution of the next few days. And of course, we've got this weak frontal boundary that gets close to my neck of the woods, but basically the front just kind of stalls out through central New York and in through central New England, and then starts to back up as a warm front once you get this wave to come out of Texas, North Texas, and then runs up toward the Great Lakes. It's a very flat look to all of this. It's not like you're getting some kind of deep trough with a wrapped up surface low. It's a very flat east-northeast, west-southwest orientation. The warmer air should get in just about everywhere on Saturday. You've got southwest or west-southwest winds setting up for Saturday, and the gradient's not half bad. So I think that's going to keep the effect of the cold ocean at bay until maybe mid or late afternoon. I think that will allow coastal areas to warm up somewhat. The big issue to me is going to be the cloud cover. How much sun are we going to get to break through the clouds? And then that low goes by. You got this flat-looking weather front that moves on through. Maybe it changes to some snow showers on the northwest side of there in parts of upstate New York and northwest PA. And then, of course, you see it all disappears by the time it gets to the coast. I'm not really overly impressed by the amount of showers that we're going to get out of this, because I'm looking at rainfall amounts all under 1/4 of an inch. Much of it's going to be over with by 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Might take a little bit longer to get it out, get it east of Long Island and southeast of New England. The bottom of that front is going to stall, and that's where we're going to get a wave that's going to develop on it. You can see it here by Tuesday morning on the GFS. So let's go back. I want to swing back to the upper air, and I actually want to bring up the European, and we're going to go to the European and do some comparisons here. But just give me one moment. I want to bring up the paint box so we can take a look at what exactly we're dealing with. So I've got the GFS. This is the late afternoon run, and we have 3 short waves here in view on the map. Okay, the first one is, of course, the one that is responsible for bringing the front through in the first place on Sunday. So that's moving through New England. Then you have the short wave in the southern part of the jet. There's a split in the flow here. Okay, you can't really see it on this shot, but there's actually the edge of an upper high, or that may actually be an upper low. I'm sorry. Let me make sure. But there is a ridge that's popped up here that moves up into the Pacific, into the northwest. You have a flow that's coming down out of Canada this way. Okay, and there's a short wave coming down also in a third short wave that is swinging down. So basically, it's one of these ABC situations, and I'm sure you've seen enough of these to know where I'm going with this. Is the short wave in the southern stream, the short wave coming down in the northern stream? Are they going to phase? Are they not going to phase? Is one going to act as a kicker and just kind of kick it away to the east? Is the northern stream going to come down and squash this and force it to go out to the east with no consequence? Those are all the big questions. Now, let's go back to let's get rid of the paint box for now, okay? And let's go back to the GFS. And I'm going to show you the European as well. So let's go back to the upper air here. And I want to also, this is the European, by the way, that I have up. But let me switch this. Hang on. So let's go to the run from earlier today. All right. So you got the setup with the three short waves. The first one lifts out. Now, this is by Tuesday morning. You've got a very well-defined southern stream short wave here from Tennessee down into the eastern Gulf. So that would create, you'll have some kind of surface low moving off of Florida and forming off the southeast coast. There's your northern stream shortwave coming down. And as we move along, at least the way the GFS handled it on the prior run, that northern stream shortwave doesn't really quite phase with it, but it gets in there enough where it lifts that southern stream system up to the northeast, and you wind up with a low that moves up the coast. All right, well, that's all fine and dandy. Here's the way it looks on the surface, just so you can see, so you can at least see what that upper air creates on a surface map. But there's your surface low on the GFS. And of course, the snow lovers are all, they saw the blue and they focused on that. Please let it go. Okay, but there's your low, and it gets to be a fairly deep wrapped up low because of how it lifts up that southern shortwave in an almost negatively tilted fashion. I would argue that that is probably the less likely solution. I don't want to completely rule it out because of what happened back not too many days ago with the system that wound up coming up the East Coast with that rain. I'm trying to remember what day it was, but I don't want to have another repeat performance of that where the models suddenly tried to phase it in. I could see how it happens, how it could happen, but this is how the GFS handled it earlier today. Here's the latest run, and this shows the other possibility with respect to the upper low. And that is, you've got your three short waves, and on this run, the GFS didn't really lift it up. It just kind of kicked it along and just shunted it out to the east. And that's a scenario that I would favor because most of the weather systems this winter really behave that way. And also, by the way, if you notice everything moving west to east, you've got another system coming into the west that's kind of pushing all this along, and that is that is also very, very important. One of the differences, though, in the European today, which I thought was pretty interesting, was the fact that how it handles the northern stream differently than the GFS does. It has that southern stream shortwave. Okay, so here we are at Monday, and you've got the same three pieces, but what the European did was it takes that shortwave that's near Lake Winnipeg up in Canada, and instead of dropping it southeastward toward the upper lakes, it actually dropped it southwestward into Montana and Idaho, and then it kind of gets this new western weather system coming inland and gets that involved. That leaves that whole shortwave in the southern stream kind of by itself, and it just basically kicked that along, where it still wound up with some kind of a coastal low. But look at the difference between the upper air Wednesday morning on the European in the east, where you've got this upper low that will be this coastal system that runs out east-northeast and passes fairly close to the coast. European did produce about an inch or so of rain out of this for areas from Virginia on up to Boston. But you'll notice that the flow in over the Great Lakes and in southern Canada is west-southwest, all right, on the European. Whereas if you take a look at the GFS, it's got a trough there. Take a look at the difference again. The GFS and the European. Totally different way that it's handling both the east and the west. Yet at the same time, the European still winds up with a vigorous enough southern stream system that it creates a chance here for some raw, rainy, and maybe along the immediate coast, windy conditions. I'll use the European's surface map, which we only have in 24-hour increments, but you can trust me that it goes from the Florida Panhandle to 24 hours later. It's right along the northeast coast of North Carolina, and then the low, which weakens, by the way, as it moves northeastward, is well south of Nantucket and east of Cape May. It's only 1,011 low here, so that's why, Mike Bologna, I would hardly call it a major nor'easter. I'm calling it a coastal low until models prove otherwise. Now here's the new GFS. Because it's got the flatter look to it, your surface low winds up passing well off the Florida coast and well off the North Carolina coast and stays well offshore. I have to tell you, in my own view, right now, this is where I would be leaning, is away from any kind of robust solution and more towards something that is much less impressive and much less of a problem. Here's a look at, by the way, as we're going into the longer range. Once that lifts out, you really kind of get the trough in the east to just disappear, and the flow going into the first weekend of April is pretty warm here. I mean, it's fairly warm. You have the upper lows pulling way up into Canada. There's almost no flow out of Canada coming into the United States, and you just got this long, extended Pacific jet running into the West Coast. You're going to carry some upper lows eastward with this, but it really kind of looks like a spring pattern here as we move into on the long range. At least we start to get to beyond the period of April 10th. So I saw my Mr. Bologna, you asked some specific questions with regards to the upcoming April, and I also saw that you brought up 2009. I have to really kind of look back. I've lost all sense of memory lately. I don't know whether it's just because after a winter of looking at weather maps, it all starts to mesh into the same, or I've got so much going on that my brain is fried, or possibly a little bit of both. So I really have to kind of go back and look at 2009, and also I'll ask Joe Rayo because he tends to remember this stuff more than I do. But as far as I know, you asked about getting to 55. I think Long Island, away from the ocean on Saturday, should see temperatures get up to about 60, and maybe even a bit higher than that in northern Nassau, northwestern Suffolk County, just to address that. And then you talked about temperatures getting up above 80 sometime on an odd day in the month of April. You know, that's such a short range type of question. I mean, you'd have to have, a pretty solid setup with regards to getting temperatures up that high into the mid 80s in April. So I really couldn't answer that question right now. But I will say this: I still tend to think that there will be more above normal temperature days going forward than below normal, and that the month is going to finish above average to some degree. Not by a lot, maybe, but enough that you can say, hey, this was a warmer than average April, and certainly warmer than the Aprils of the past several years or more, where it seemed like we were getting these sort of extended winters. So you kind of get a sense here as far as the overall look of the weather pattern across the United States, we don't have any big lows. We don't have any deep lows right now. That animal that went to the Great Lakes, when was it, about 10 days ago? I mean, ever since then, things have been pretty silent. There's nothing that's going to change here through this weekend, and even with this low that's off the coast, again, I'm not really overly bullish on it, but I could see the possibilities. But as far as getting some kind of major system going on either here or anywhere else, it looks like we've gotten ourselves into this kind of quiet pattern. It'll eventually maybe start to rev up a little bit, but overall, I think things will look relatively uneventful, certainly through the weekend and into early next week. Chris Alley, I know you weren't here yesterday. Nice to see you. Scott Burler, Johnny Quest, Robert Brown. William Huber, 18 at West Hampton, Bill, this morning, 21 at my house. It was really cold, and I did see one of the guys that I follow on Twitter who's down in South Jersey. I forgot what town he mentioned down in South Jersey, was 16 this morning. He went out for an early morning run before sunup, and it was 16. The fat lady definitely has left the building. She's gotten on the bus. She's on her way to her next show, and she won't be back for a while. Okay? It's over. Appreciate the silence we have, says David Schwartz. Soon enough, it'll be the heart of severe weather season and then hurricane season. Yeah, I agree. It's a nice break. Even the atmosphere, anytime the atmosphere gets stretched out to an extreme, oftentimes we get a relaxation period afterward. It's as if all the weather has been sucked out of the atmosphere. All the energy has been sucked out of the atmosphere, and it needs time to just kind of regroup and reload. There's only so much room. It's the storms do their job to redistribute heat, and once that job is done, then it waits for the next opportunity for heat to build up. And at the moment, at least over the United States, we don't really see too much of that. When we do, we'll probably see some severe weather. Jack does weather here in PA. Haven't seen snow in a while, and hope it stays like that. I would say, and Chuck Cardillo, because you're up in the Catskills at 2,800 feet, you're practically up at the on the top of Mount Everest there. I would say this: at this point on, it's likely that the places that are going to see snow are clearly going to be in situations where elevation is going to be key. And I also think that, at least from the standpoint of the areas down near the coast, the answer is plain and simple: no. It's just, I just don't see how it's going to happen. The upper air pattern to me is just all wrong. It just is. Izzy D, you haven't been on, and I haven't seen you in the last day or so, but you said you got hit by the sea breeze today, and you've been seeding your lawn, so that's a good thing. One of the interesting things about Long Island, by the way, is in this time of year, is it takes so much longer because of the effect of the ocean wind and the sea breeze, particularly in Suffolk County. It takes so much longer for trees to bloom and for the leaves to come out and for the flowers to come out. So in a way, the upside is that if you are an admirer of spring beauty, when some of the dogwoods bloom and some of the other cherry trees and weeping cherries and that kind of thing, I actually love from that angle when the springs are like this, because for Long Island, because of the fact that I've seen what happens when we get into really warm stretches too early. The blooms just disappear. I don't remember what year it was, but I guess when you go back to some of the really warm years in the 90s, there might have been a few really warm springs there. And I used to plant, and I don't do it anymore, but I used to plant 500 or 600 tulip bulbs every year in my yard. And I would just keep my fingers crossed for a really, really cool spring, because in the years where you get that first 80-degree day, your tulips are not long for this world. But on the other hand, when the weather's been very cool and it has lasted for a while, my blooms would last for about 2 or 3 weeks, and they would be just gorgeous. I gotta go. I have this was back in a time where you took pictures with an actual camera. Okay, so I have to go back and actually find some of the pictures of these tulips that I planted, because I literally would go out in the fall and buy bulbs. I used to go to a wholesaler and I would buy 500 or 600 tulip bulbs and put them down. And I used to love the spring garden and the look that it produced. And when my daughters got married, I actually did the same thing. That was I think the last time I put the tulips down, so that when my oldest daughter had an early spring wedding, she had the plants blooming outside. So that was really nice. My other daughter got married very close to Christmas, which was nice in a different way. But you don't have to worry about planting outside. You just have to worry about making sure that every leaf has been picked up, and every limb that has fallen off a tree is retrieved and discarded, because it had to be absolutely perfect. All right, folks, it's coming up on 8 o'clock Eastern time. Gonna leave it here at this point. If you are interested in additional expanding your weather experience, do consider my weather platform on Patreon. It's just $2 a month, and a number of the Patreon members are on here. Timothy Veltman, nice to see you. By the way, we've got Chuck Cardillo also on Patreon, and a number of others. I want to say by quick hello to Trevor McKelvey. What year is the hottest summer on record? What area are you asking for? I got to go back. I used to know all these things off the top of my head. I know 1934 for New York City stood for the longest time, but I got to double check that. We had a number of hot summers back in the 90s and early 2000s. So I got to double check on that. Also want to say hi to G Train and Amy Hogan. On here, Charles Gall, nice to see you on board. If I missed you tonight, Daphne the German Shepherd puppy, also a big hello. If I missed you, I promise I'll try and catch you, say hello next time. But anyway, just to let you know, if you want to expand your weather experience, the Patreon network, my Patreon platform, my weather platform on Patreon, the link is up there on the chat. So give it a look if you'd like. It's just $2 a month. And we do a lot of extra stuff on there, including extra posts, live streams. You can message me at any time. And the other thing, I've made a couple of changes to the weather app. I added a few severe weather maps and rainfall maps. The snow maps are going to be coming off shortly, but this is free, so you can download this for all mobile devices. The main focus of my stuff that's on there is eastern Pennsylvania to southern New England, specifically the northern half of New Jersey, New York City, Long Island, southern Connecticut, and the lower Hudson Valley south of Route 84. However, I do touch upon areas just outside of that, and you can pull up your local information on there and your local radar. No matter where you are in the United States, you can do that. And there'll be some more updates coming to the app in the next several months. I've got a few things I'm working on, including hopefully trying to figure out a way that I can link Patreon to the app, so that this way you can seamlessly go from the app over to Patreon and not have to open two separate applications. So that's on my list of my to-do list. Joe and Joe Weather Show tonight on my Facebook page, meteorologist Joe Chaffee, at 9:25 Eastern time. At least that's the plan. Sometimes the plan changes, but right now we're tentatively scheduled to do it. We'll see. And Anthony Orr, you too have a great evening. And if you're not here tomorrow, have a great weekend. And maybe we'll see you later. All right, take care, guys and gals.